You know, some stories start like a small scratch, but the longer you leave it, the deeper it tears until it's a wound that will never heal. Today's story is about me, a person who thought I understood the line between past and present, between memory and reality, until the past came knocking, demanding to be let in, dragging along the ghost of someone I once called a friend. From unexplained letters to noises in the night, to the moment I had to face the person who shattered everything I'd tried to keep whole. This is a haunting journey through loss, twisted obsession, and the biggest question of all, does justice ever truly bring peace? Brace yourself, because this story won't just send chills down your spine. It will make you wonder, if it were you, would you choose to stand and face it or turn and run? Chapter 1, Introduction, Tragedy on the Highway. I still remember that day vividly. The image feels like it's been carved straight into my brain, no matter how hard I try to forget. It was an overcast afternoon, the wind howling as if it wanted to sweep everything off the highway. I was at home when I got a call from Mikey, my older brother. His voice was so frantic that at first I couldn't understand what he was saying. I only caught fragments like Alice, car, blood. Before I could even ask, he hung up. When I rushed out of the house and arrived at the scene, the sight before me squeezed my heart like a vice. Alice's car was lying helplessly on the roadside, its front end crushed, shards of glass scattered everywhere. And there she was, my little sister, lying motionless in the middle of the lane. Mikey was kneeling beside her, holding her tightly, his shirt soaked with blood. He kept repeating the same words over and over, "Wake up, Lala. Shh! Please wake up." His voice was hoarse, trembling, as if the moment he stopped speaking, Alice would vanish forever. I don't know how long I stood there. The ambulance came, but it was already far too late. The police talked to me about procedures and clearing the scene, but my ears were ringing. All I could see was Mikey being pulled away, still straining to reach out and touch Alice, still calling her name, like a man lost in a fog. My parents nearly collapsed when they heard the news, but instead of facing it together, they chose to leave, moving to another state to escape the painful memories. They said it would help them heal, but I knew better. It was just their way of running away. And so it was only Mikey and me left, with a void in the house that could never be filled. In the days that followed, Mikey became almost like a ghost. He wandered the house silently, always leaving Alice's bedroom door wide open, as if waiting for her to come back. On her desk, the laptop was still open, the last song paused mid-play. I'd often think about closing it, but every time I couldn't bring myself to. Once he came to me and asked, "Mark, can you make mac and cheese for Alice tonight? Don't forget the extra butter, she likes it that way." I didn't know how to respond. I just silently nodded and went into the kitchen, leaving him on the couch glued to Alice's Instagram, scrolling over and over through the same familiar photos. At the time, I thought maybe this was his way of coping, holding on to some part of Alice, but I didn't realize that grief was beginning to change. And when it changed, it would swallow everything whole. Chapter 2, When Grief Twists. The summer passed in a suffocating silence, but when the leaves began to change color, I noticed something in Mikey had shifted, and it wasn't for the better. He started sleeping on the floor of Alice's room, surrounded by her stuffed animals, and the faint scent of her perfume still lingering in the air. Once I asked him why he was doing that, and he replied, matter-of-factly, "I can't leave her alone, Mark. She's afraid of the dark." Then he turned away, as if that answer made perfect sense. In the middle of the night, I would often find him sitting cross-legged in the room, reading children's books to Alice's dolls. His voice was gentle, eerily gentle, like he was truly reading to her. I tried suggesting you should see a therapist at least to talk about everything, and to my surprise, he agreed. He went 3 times, just 3. One evening, I found the therapist's business card torn into pieces in the trash. No explanation. Then one night in October, when I went to the kitchen for a drink of water, Mikey was standing there, no lights on, not moving. It wasn't until I greeted him that he said Alice, and then quickly corrected himself. Sorry, Mark. You moved just like her for a second? I don't know why that made my blood run cold. There was something in his voice, different from before. I replied, Mikey, I'm Mark. Your brother. He nodded, unblinking. But from that moment, things began spiraling downhill much faster. He started buying me snacks. Alice used to love leaving a bottle of pale pink nail polish on my dresser with the comment, I think you'll like it. When I pointed out it was Alice's color, he just smiled distantly. Exactly. One morning, I woke up to find my entire calendar rearranged: ballet classes, piano lessons, rehearsal times, all matching Alice's old schedule. When I confronted him, Mikey broke down in tears. Alice has practice at 3. We can't let her miss it. That was the last time he called me by my real name. By then, I knew I was standing in front of something very dangerous, but I still couldn't picture how it would explode into a nightmare on Halloween morning. Chapter 3. Halloween morning. I woke up on Halloween morning with a strange feeling. It wasn't the weather and it wasn't the sound of the wind outside my window. It was because someone was sitting on the edge of my bed. Mikey. He sat upright, hands neatly resting on his lap, and laid out across the sheets was a faded pink princess dress, the same one Alice had worn in her ballet recital when she was 10. On the table beside it sat a plastic tiara polished to a shine, and her old ballet slippers scrubbed clean until they were bright white again. He looked at me, smiling faintly, as if this was the most normal thing in the world. Come on, princess. Today's your big performance. I bolted upright, my heart pounding. Mikey, what the hell is this? But before I could stand, the room spun violently. A wave of dizziness crashed over me, forcing me to grip the bed frame. He tilted his head, still wearing that smile. You've been so tired lately, Alice, so I gave you something to help you rest. And that orange juice. I glanced down at the glass on the table, the one I drank from last night. A crushing helplessness hit me like a punch to the chest. From his pocket, he pulled out one of Alice's old diaries, opening it to a page marked with a ribbon. Remember this, you once wrote that your biggest dream was to be a ballerina. Today we're going to make that come true. I shook my head hard. Mikey, stop. You're scaring me. I'm Mark, your brother. But his eyes looked straight through me as if he hadn't heard a word. When I pushed the dress aside, he grabbed my shoulders and squeezed tight. Why are you upset, Alice? You promised Mom and Dad. You promised you'd dance today. His face twisted, anger, desperation, and madness all tangled together. I shoved him back, shouting, Alice is dead. I'm Mark, your brother. But that only made him scream louder. Don't lie. You'll always be my little sister. You'll always be Alice. He lifted the tiara, trying to place it on my head. I broke free, running for the door. Behind me, his voice rang out like some haunting melody. Alice, come back. The performance is about to start. I sprinted into the bathroom and locked the door just before he could catch me. The pounding on the door was deafening, followed by his voice breaking. I've been preparing for this day for weeks. You can't miss it. I'll protect you. Big brothers always protect their little sisters. And me. I could only stand there trembling, realizing I was trapped in a Halloween no nightmare could ever match. Chapter 4. The Escape Door. I leaned back against the bathroom door, trying to keep my hands from shaking so badly that I'd drop the lock. Mikey was right outside, his rapid breathing mingling with the steady pounding on the door, each knock harder than the last. Alice, don't be scared. I'm here now. Open the door for me. We still have to make it on time. His voice was soft, like he was coaxing a child, but beneath it was something that made my heart pound erratically. A sick, unshakable determination. I didn't answer. Maybe that was the only thing that managed to rattle him. The knocking abruptly turned into a metallic, clinking sound. That's when I realized he was using a tool to take apart the doorknob. No, 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 no. I started pounding on the wall, screaming, "Help, somebody help me!" And as if by some miracle, I heard another knock, this time from the hallway. Mrs. T, our neighbor, her voice, high and clear. "Mikey, what's going on? What's all this noise?" Mikey froze instantly. When he spoke again, his voice turned unnaturally sweet. "It's nothing, Mrs. T. Alice is just a little nervous about her performance." I shouted louder, my voice cracking. "I'm not Alice. I'm Mark. Please call the police." There was a brief silence outside, and then Mrs. T's voice, firm and steady. "Mikey, Alice is gone. I'll make the call." The sound of her footsteps moving away brought me both relief and dread. Mikey knocked gently on the door again. "You see, they're lying to us again. But I won't let them separate us, Alice." In the distance, I heard the faint wail of sirens growing closer. Mikey began to panic, jiggling the doorknob over and over, muttering things I couldn't make out. The next bang on the door was so violent I thought it might burst open. But then a voice roared, "Police, open up!" Footsteps thundered down the hall, followed by Mikey's desperate shout. "She has to wear the dress first. She's not ready yet." The bathroom door swung open from the outside, and in an instant, two officers rushed in, pulling me away from Mikey. He thrashed violently, tears streaming down his face. "Alice, tell them about the performance." I could only gasp for breath, staring as they cuffed him. One officer turned to me and asked, "What's your name?" I struggled to speak. "Mark. I'm his brother." Mikey fought against their grip, his voice hoarse from screaming. "No, that's Alice. My little sister don't believe him." Even as they dragged him away, he looked back at me, his eyes a mix of pain and something far more dangerous. "I'll come back for you. I promise." And in that moment, I knew one thing for certain: this wasn't over. Chapter 5: Shadows Under the Graveyard. I thought that Mikey being sent to the psychiatric hospital after Halloween would mark the end of that nightmare. I was wrong. 2 months later, on a freezing winter night, my phone rang. On the other end was the hoarse, weary voice of a staff member from the facility. We're sorry. Mikey has escaped." I felt my heart drop straight into my stomach. He continued, "The police just caught him at the cemetery. Alice's grave. It's been half dug." I rushed to the scene. Flashlights and patrol car beams swept across rows of cold, lifeless headstones. The smell of freshly turned earth mixed with the damp, musty air unique to a winter graveyard. And there in the middle of the jagged mound of soil, Mikey knelt in handcuffs, clothes caked in mud, breath puffing out in white clouds. He looked up at me, eyes bloodshot yet blazing with a feverish conviction. "She called me Mark. Didn't you hear Alice wants to come home?" When the officers searched him, they found an old baby blanket, a water bottle, a few packets of snacks, and a small pink flashlight Alice had used as a child. The facility manager later told me everything. Mikey had befriended a female staff member named Sarah Peen, someone who had lost her own little sister in an accident 5 years earlier. Through carefully twisted stories, Mikey convinced her that I was keeping Alice captive, preventing them from being reunited. Sarah believed him so completely that she secretly gave him her keycard, thinking she was helping to rescue a long-lost sibling. The police took Mikey back to the hospital. But for me, that moment standing in the cemetery, staring at the deep black hole in the ground, realizing he was willing to dig up a grave to feed his delusion, was when I understood this wasn't just grief anymore. Mikey wasn't just trapped in the past. He was pulling me down into that hole with him, and if I didn't find a way to stop him, next time he might succeed. Chapter 6: The Psychological War. I thought that after the grave-digging incident, Mikey would be kept under much tighter supervision. But only a few weeks later I realized he didn't need to be outside to cause trouble. He had found a way to attack me from within the walls of the hospital. It started when my boss called me into his office. He turned his computer screen toward me, an email sent from my address at 4 in the morning. The mayor. The message claimed I was showing severe signs of a nervous breakdown and needed to take extended leave from work. It was signed with my name, the tone mimicking me perfectly. I swore to my boss I hadn't sent it, but I could see a trace of suspicion in his eyes. That day I came home to find my employee ID card missing. Checking the building's entry logs, I saw someone had used my spare key card to enter my apartment at 2:47 a.m. 3 nights ago, while I was asleep. Then it was Emma, my girlfriend, who got a call from Mikey, Alice's brother. He asked her about Alice's favorite flowers for her upcoming birthday. Thinking it was part of his therapy, Emma answered honestly, pink roses and baby's breath. 2 weeks later, I discovered my old joint bank account had been emptied, $3,000 withdrawn in small amounts from multiple ATMs. Receipts found in Mikey's locker showed the money was used to buy flowers, balloons, ribbons, plastic tiaras, and to set up a recurring order for pink roses to be delivered to Alice's grave every Tuesday. But the worst wasn't over. One evening, Mrs. T stopped by with a cake and a piece of news that hit me like a brick. Before he was arrested, Mikey had been visiting her frequently, asking over and over about that Halloween night, what I had said, what she had heard, and what my voice sounded like. She thought it was part of his trauma processing. Now she realized he'd been gathering details to rewrite the story. Soon, Facebook was flooded with newly made accounts using Alice's photo as the profile picture. Each one posted statuses like I miss my family. I'm being kept here. Someone please help me. The timelines were arranged as if Alice were still alive, being held somewhere by me. People who used to know Alice, even some from her church, began sharing the posts and sending me angry messages. Not long after, a video surfaced, footage of me screaming at Mikey. No one knew who filmed or edited it, but the clip had been cut, so you couldn't see what Mikey was doing beforehand. In the video, I looked exactly like an abusive aggressor. I started to realize Mikey didn't just want to ruin my reputation. He wanted to erase me from the story altogether. Just like the old family videos he used to edit, removing every frame of me standing next to Alice. Only this time his edit was being released to the entire world. And the thing that chilled me the most was this: he was still locked inside the hospital. But his hands had already reached all the way out here. Chapter 7. Family Inside. Outsider out. I arranged to meet my parents at a small cafe near their home. I knew this wasn't going to be a pleasant conversation, but if I didn't say things outright, it was only going to get worse. Mom arrived first. She set her cappuccino down without looking me in the eye. Dad came in a few minutes later, shrugged off his coat, sat across from me, and let out a heavy sigh. Mark, do you know what the neighbors have been saying these past few weeks? They say you're hiding something about Alice. They say you aren't right. I clenched my jaw, pulled out my phone, and scrolled through a gallery of screenshots, fake texts, forged emails, Facebook posts from Alice, and that edited video. Here, all of this is from Mikey. He's manipulating everyone. He still believes Alice is alive, and he wants me erased from her memory. Dad skimmed through a few images, frowning. Mark, maybe you're looking at this too extremely. Mikey is sick, but he's always loved Alice. He'd never hurt his sister. I laughed, not the kind of laugh that comes from amusement, but the dry, bitter kind that burns on the way out. Digging up her grave in the middle of the night, what's that? Sending roses and plastic tiaras to the cemetery every week? What's that? Or pretending to be me so I lose my job? My friends, is that just love, too? Mom finally spoke up, her voice trembling. But if he truly believes Alice is still here, then he doesn't mean to hurt anyone. He just can't accept it. I stared at her for a long moment. Maybe that was when I realized the real distance between us. They were willing to believe in a man who dug graves, lied, and sabotaged as long as he carried the title of family. And me, the one just trying to survive, was the outsider. The next day, I brought all the evidence to the psychiatric hospital. Mikey's treating doctor, Dr. Hanley, listened while I spoke, occasionally nodding and jotting down notes. When I finished, he set his pen down, clasped his hands, and said, "I'm not dismissing what you've shown me, but truthfully, This is a highly complex case. We can't increase restrictions unless the patient presents a direct physical danger. At this time, I wanted to scream at him that physical danger was only a matter of time, and when it came, no one would be able to stop it, but I knew it was useless. On the way home, I got a text from an unknown number. You always make things harder. But don't worry, little sister. We'll be together soon. I didn't need to guess who it was, and I understood my parents, the neighbors, the doctor. They could all ignore my warnings. But Mikey wouldn't. He was just waiting for the next moment to strike. Chapter 8. The Night of the Window Tap. I'd never believed in prophetic dreams, but that night before anything happened, I dreamed that my bedroom window was being opened from the outside. Cold wind rushed in and I heard Alice's whisper, "You forgot to lock it." I jolted awake at 2:13 a.m. The wind outside didn't sound normal. It had a rhythm to it, like fabric brushing against a wall. Then creak. A faint sound from the direction of the living room. Emma was asleep beside me. I carefully slid out of bed and reached for the baseball bat under it. I hadn't even turned on the light when I heard the faint rattle of the kitchen window latch. My steps were slow, my heartbeat pounding in my ears, cold sweat trailing down my spine. When I reached the kitchen, my chest clenched. The window was wide open, curtains swaying gently. And just at the edge of my vision, a thin, bony hand gripping the sill, pulling up the rest of a body. Mikey. His face was more gaunt than before, eyes sunken, but burning with intensity. His mouth curling into a warped smile. "Mark, Alice says she's cold. You've kept her from me for too long." I lunged forward to slam the window shut, but he jammed his leg against the frame, trying to force his way in. The struggle knocked a spice jar to the floor, shattering it pepper glass and the stench of damp soil filling the air. Emma woke to the noise, ran out, and screamed. Mikey immediately let go of the frame, but he didn't back away. He took a few slow steps, backward, eyes locked on mine, then raised a finger to his lips in a chilling shh gesture. Before I could lock down every other entry, a knock echoed from the living room window. Not loud, not frantic, just 3 deliberate taps. I knew it was his signal. I called 911, but by the time the police arrived, Mikey was gone. All they found were muddy footprints trailing along the walkway smeared on the kitchen window ledge and disappearing over the back fence. That night, Emma sat clutching a pillow while I stayed awake, eyes fixed on the window. I knew this time he wasn't just testing me anymore. He had found his way straight to the house. And next time, it wouldn't stop at knocking. Chapter 9. The Final Meeting at Alice's Place. 3 days after the night at the window, I found a yellow envelope sitting at my front door. No stamp, no return address. Just my name, scrawled in a handwriting I knew all too well. Inside was a faded, printed photo, me and Alice, taken in the town park in the fall, when she was 10. But the photo had been altered. My face had been ripped out, jagged and torn, replaced with a printed photo of Mikey's face, glued over mine. On the back, there was only one sentence. "If you want Alice to rest in peace, meet me where she laughed the loudest." I knew instantly where that was. The open field behind the summer fairgrounds where Alice once rode the carousel so many times she screamed with terror and delight at the same time. It was where we took a picture together every year. I didn't call the police right away. Partly because I knew Mikey would vanish the second he saw a patrol car, but mostly because I wanted this to end. I slipped a folding knife into my pocket, pulled on a heavy coat, and went there just as the sun was sinking. The field was empty, the wind whispering through the tall, dry grass, and in the center, Mikey stood waiting. In his hands was a small, wooden jewelry box. As I approached, he opened it, revealing a silver, heart-shaped pendant. I recognized it immediately. It was Alice's. "You hid it!" Mikey said, his tone like an accusation. Alice wanted me to have it, but you kept it. You never loved her like I did. I tightened my grip on the knife in my pocket, forcing my voice to stay calm. Mikey, Alice is gone. She's not coming back. And what you're doing, it's destroying everything that's left of her. He laughed, a cracked, splintering sound. No, you're the one who destroyed everything. You pushed her out of the house, out of the family, away from me. And now you're going to disappear too. Mikey lunged. We crashed to the ground, wrestling in the brittle grass. The knife slipped from my hand, skittering a few feet away. I barely managed to block his first punch before his hands clamped around my throat, his hot breath reeking of earth and sweat. In a surge of panic, my hand closed around an old piece of wood lying nearby. I swung hard, smashing it into his shoulder. Mikey screamed, collapsing to the side, just long enough for me to scramble up and grab the knife. But I didn't stab him. I only leveled it at him, shouting, "It's over. You're not touching me, Emma, or anything of Alice's ever again." In the distance, the wail of police sirens grew louder. Emma had called them when I left the house. As the red and blue lights swept over the field, Mikey sat down hard in the grass, his eyes hollow, his trembling hands letting the jewelry box slip from his grasp. They cuffed him while I stood there chest heaving, just watching. I knew this wasn't the kind of ending you see in movies. No perfect justice, no clean resolution. But at least this time Alice could rest, and I finally could breathe. Chapter 10. At last, a quiet. They took Mikey away that night, and this time both the psychiatrist and the police assured me he wouldn't have another chance to wander out. But the truth is, there's no building, no wall thick enough to keep memories from slipping into your dreams. In the days that followed, Emma and I cleaned the house. We replaced the windows, changed the locks, and removed anything that might remind us of Mikey. But the things that belonged to Alice I kept, not to cling to, but to remind myself that she really had existed, had lived, had laughed, and had loved us in the way only a child can, without condition, without motive. The police returned the wooden box to me. The silver pendant inside was ice cold in my hand. Emma placed her hand on my shoulder and whispered, "Let's put it somewhere safe. For Alice." We decided to bury it beneath the willow tree in the yard where Alice used to play on the swing. No ceremony, no long speeches. Just the two of us, a handful of dirt and a silent promise. No one will disturb your peace again. I still got a few letters from Mikey in the months after, written from the psychiatric hospital. I didn't open them. I didn't need to know what he had to say, because I understood with people trapped in delusion like Mikey, every word is just another spiral trying to pull you down. Someone once asked me if I hated him. The honest answer is yes and no. I hated what he'd done, but part of me still remembered the Mikey from before it all collapsed. The friend who helped me haul a stereo up to the third floor when we first moved in. The brother who used to hold Alice as if she was his whole world. But sometimes love isn't enough to keep someone anchored to reality. And my responsibility, anyone's responsibility, isn't to jump into the pit with them, but to know when to let go, to save yourself. The last time I dreamed of Alice, she wasn't standing outside my window whispering anymore. Instead, she was sitting on the swing, under the willow hair drifting in the breeze, smiling with that mischievous grin. I want to believe that was her way of saying, "It's okay, Mark. We're safe now." And when I woke up for the first time in years, I didn't feel the crushing weight of fear in my chest. Just a quiet deep enough to start over. When Mikey was taken away, a lot of people told me that's it. It's over. But I knew stories like this are never truly over. You can't erase what happened, and you can't bring back the person who's gone. I'm telling this story not to ask for sympathy, but to remind you, if you ever feel someone crossing a line, speak up. Immediately. Not out of politeness, not out of fear of offending them. Because if I had stayed silent just one more time, I might have lost more than just Alice. Thank you for listening to this story. If it made you think, or if you've been through something similar, share it so others know they are not alone.